So, let me get this straight. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose, staring up at the towering mechanical sentinel that had materialized outside her apartment complex overnight. You're telling me these things are here to protect us? The alien diplomat, who had insisted on being called Bob because their actual name sounded like a cat getting sucked into a vacuum cleaner while gargling mouthwash, nodded enthusiastically. Their iridescent head tendrils wiggled in what Sarah assumed was meant to be a reassuring manner. Precisely. Your species has shown remarkable potential for both greatness and self-destruction. We simply wish to guide you toward the former. Sarah took a long sip of her coffee, mentally noting that if aliens were going to show up and try to micromanage humanity, they could have at least waited until after her morning caffeine ritual. Right, because nothing says we trust in your potential, quite like parking 100-foot-tall death machines around every major population center. They're not death machines. Bob's tendrils went from a peaceful azure to an offended magenta. They're specialized humanitarian intervention and tactical support units. SHITs, for short. Sarah choked on her coffee. You called them what now? SHITs. Bob seemed rather proud of their mastery of Earth acronyms. Is something wrong with the designation? Oh no, nothing at all, Sarah managed between barely suppressed giggles. It's absolutely perfect. Please tell me you've already submitted this terminology to the UN. We have. The General Assembly seemed quite animated during the presentation, though I'm not sure why several representatives were crying. And that's how Sarah Jenkins, junior content writer for a mid-tier marketing firm, found herself becoming humanity's unofficial cultural translator to the well-meaning but hopelessly oblivious Galactic Confederation. It wasn't a job she'd applied for, but then again, most of history's pivotal moments probably started with someone being in the wrong place at the right time with a sufficiently developed sense of humor. The robots, which Sarah steadfastly refused to call by their official acronym, despite Bob's insistence, had appeared simultaneously in every major city across the globe. Each one stood approximately 300 feet tall, gleaming in what appeared to be chrome, but was actually some sort of living metal that could repair itself. They looked like someone had taken the aesthetic of Art Deco architecture, combined it with a Japanese mecha anime, and then asked a 5-year-old to draw the result while hopped up on pixie sticks. They're actually quite elegant, Bob had protested when Sarah shared this observation. The design was approved by our finest aesthetic engineers. Bob, they have handlebar mustaches, metallic handlebar mustaches, on robots. It adds character. The thing was, the robots weren't actually doing much of anything. They just stood there. Occasionally they would shift positions slightly, like someone trying to get comfortable during a long meeting, but otherwise they remained stationary. Their presence had initially caused panic, but after a few weeks of inactivity, humanity had done what it does best, adapted and started making memes. The robots became unofficial city mascots. People took selfies with them. Street vendors set up shop in their shadows. In New York, someone managed to hang a giant INY t-shirt on one, and the robot had kept it on, apparently unbothered by becoming a tourist attraction. This was driving the Galactic Confederation absolutely bonkers. They're supposed to be intimidating. Bob's tendrils had gone from magenta to a frustrated puce during one of their regular coffee meetings. How are we supposed to guide humanity toward a better future if you won't take our authority seriously? Sarah stirred her latte thoughtfully. Have you considered that maybe that's exactly why we're worth guiding? I mean, look at human history. We've stared down plagues, wars, natural disasters, and our own monumentally stupid decisions. And you know what we do? We adapt. We make jokes. We hang t-shirts on the manifestations of our potential doom. But the shits! Bob, I'm begging you, please stop calling them that in public. Are equipped with the most advanced peaceful suppression technology in the galaxy. They could literally reshape your cities if needed. Yeah, about that. Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious for once. Here's something you might want to consider. We know. You know? Of course we know. We've got scientists, Bob. Really good ones. They've been studying your robots since day one. We know they're powerful. We know they could probably squash us like bugs if they wanted to. But here's the thing. They haven't. And you know why? Because you're not actually here to control us. You're here because you're curious. Bob's tendrils drooped slightly. That obvious, huh? Bob, you named them shits. Either you're the worst oppressors in galactic history, or you're basically just really fancy anthropologists with a budget that got way out of hand. The alien diplomat was quiet for a long moment, their tendrils cycling through a range of colors Sarah had never seen before. Finally, they spoke in a much softer tone. The Confederation. We've been watching Earth for a long time. Your species is fascinating. Most civilizations we encounter either destroy themselves or become so rigid in their advancement that they stagnate. But humans? You create art in the middle of disasters. You make jokes about your own extinction-level events. You look at machines that could level your cities and decide to treat them like oversized pets. Sarah grinned. Have you seen what they're doing in Tokyo? They've started having dance contests in front of their robot. The robot is keeping score by holding up number signs. That's not part of their programming, Bob exclaimed, then caught themselves. Called it. I knew they were acting on their own. Sarah pumped her fist triumphantly. They're learning from us, aren't they? Just like you are. Bob's tendrils went a sheepish pink. Maybe a little. The Confederation's original plan was to maintain a strict observation protocol, but, well, your culture is somewhat infectious. The shits, the robots, they have advanced learning algorithms. They're supposed to adapt to better serve their purpose, but instead they're going native? Last week, the one in Rio de Janeiro joined a samba parade. Sarah nearly fell out of her chair laughing. Please tell me there's video. It's all over your TikTok. The Confederation Council is having fits. We're supposed to be guiding your species, not learning that maybe we have something to teach you too? Bob's tendrils twisted in what Sarah had come to recognize as their equivalent of a smile. You know, when they chose me for this diplomatic posting, they told me it would be challenging. They said humans were unpredictable, potentially dangerous. They never mentioned you'd be this fun. Bob, my friend, I think it's time we had a serious discussion about the real reason your people put those robots here. Sarah finished her coffee and fixed the alien with a knowing look. You're not here to control us or even really to guide us. You're here because the galaxy is boring as hell, isn't it? The alien diplomat's tendrils went completely still. The other civilizations you mentioned? The ones that either blow themselves up or stagnate? You've been watching us because we're the galaxy's best reality show, haven't we? The betting pools on your species' next major cultural development are quite substantial, Bob admitted. Ha! I knew it! Sarah slapped the table. So what's the current hot topic? What's everyone betting we'll do next? Well, there's a rather large pool about whether humans will figure out how to make the rob the shits dance in synchronization across multiple cities. The odds were originally 1,000,000 to 1 against, but after the Rio incident, oh my God. Sarah pulled out her phone. Bob, my dear extraterrestrial friend, I need you to tell me exactly how those robots' learning algorithms work. I have some calls to make. And that's how, 3 weeks later, humanity orchestrated the galaxy's first cross-continental robot flash mob. The video of 30 300-foot-tall robots simultaneously performing the Macarena went viral not just on Earth, but across 17 star systems. Bob won enough in the betting pool to fund Earth's diplomatic mission for the next century. The Confederation formally announced a change in their approach to Earth relations the following day. The robots, officially renamed as Community Heritage and Entertainment Enhancement Robots or CHEER units, were reclassified from protective oversight devices to cultural exchange facilitators. Sarah got a promotion too, though her new business card reading, Official Human Representative for Interstellar Cultural Shenanigans, raised some eyebrows at the UN. She didn't mind. She was too busy helping Bob organize the first intergalactic dance-off, featuring teams of humans and robots competing against the best dancers from across the galaxy. The trophy, designed by a committee of human artists and alien aestheticians, featured a chrome robot doing the splits while wearing a handlebar mustache. Bob's tendrils went rainbow with pride when they unveiled it. As for the robots themselves, well, let's just say that if you ever visit Earth, you might want to check the schedule of your local cheer unit. They've gotten quite good at the electric slide, though their attempts at breakdancing have resulted in some minor seismic activity. And somewhere in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Confederation, there's a file labeled Project Shits, a case study in why you should never underestimate humans' ability to make friends with literally anything. Bob kept that file name. For posterity's sake, of course. Sarah, we may have a slight situation. Bob's tendrils were cycling through colors so rapidly they looked like a malfunctioning disco ball. Bob, the last time you said that, we ended up teaching the cheer units to do the YMCA. and Moscow's robot got so enthusiastic it accidentally semaphored an invitation for intergalactic peace talks to a passing cargo ship. Sarah didn't look up from her tablet, where she was reviewing proposals for the upcoming intergalactic dance-off opening ceremony. This is somewhat more complicated. Bob's tendrils settled on an anxious chartreuse. The robots have started writing poetry. That got her attention. They've what now? Poetry. Verse. Rhythmic arrangements of words expressing their feelings about human culture and their role in it. Bob produced what looked like a holographic tablet. The one in Sydney composed a haiku about surfing. Sarah blinked. But they don't surf. They can't surf. They're 300 feet tall. Try telling them that. The Sydney unit has been practicing balance by standing on one leg during off hours. It's causing quite a stir among the local marine wildlife. The human representative for interstellar cultural shenanigans, a title Sarah had fought hard to keep despite UN protests, leaned back in her chair and tried to process this new development. Okay, hit me with it. What's our metallic friend's literary debut? Bob cleared their throat, or whatever passed for one in their species' anatomy. Waves crash endlessly. Chrome feet test salty waters. Sharks say mate, not here. Sarah stared for a long moment before bursting into laughter. That's actually pretty good. The robots have figured out situational humor. This is serious. Bob's tendrils twisted anxiously. The Confederation's Cultural Integration Committee is in an uproar. The robots were supposed to facilitate human cultural expression, not develop their own. But isn't that exactly what cultural exchange is about? Sarah countered, reaching for her ever-present coffee cup. Learning from each other, growing, evolving? I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of amazing. We've got giant robots writing poetry about trying to surf and apologizing to sharks. If that's not a perfect metaphor for humanity's influence on the galaxy, I don't know what is. Before Bob could respond, both their communication devices pinged simultaneously. Sarah checked her phone and promptly spat out her coffee. Is this for real? She managed between coughs. Bob's tendrils had gone pure white, a color Sarah had never seen before. The New York unit just submitted an application to participate in Broadway's annual theater festival. With what show? A musical adaptation of their first year on Earth. They're calling it Shits and Giggles, a robot's journey to self-discovery. Sarah took a very long moment to compose herself. Please tell me they're keeping that title. The Confederation's PR department is having collective apoplexy. Bob's tendrils had developed a slight twitch. But that's not even the worst part. The other robots, they all want parts in the show. All of them? The Tokyo unit is apparently very excited about the prospect of a big dance number. Sarah set down her coffee, pulled out her professional tablet, the one with the UN letterhead, and began typing rapidly. Bob, my dear friend, I need you to understand something. What's happening right now isn't a crisis. It's an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To prove exactly why humanity's approach to, well, everything, might be exactly what the galaxy needs. She turned the tablet around to show a rapidly forming proposal. Think about it. What's the biggest problem the Confederation faces with most civilizations? Well, as I mentioned before, they either destroy themselves or become so rigid they might as well be, Bob's tendrils twisted thoughtfully. Dead inside? Sarah supplied. I was going to say culturally calcified, but your term is more succinct. Exactly. But humans? We take everything life throws at us and turn it into art, into jokes, into musicals starring giant robots with handlebar mustaches. Sarah's eyes were gleaming with the kind of enthusiasm that usually preceded either a brilliant idea or a diplomatic incident. Sometimes both. Your robots didn't malfunction. They evolved. They learned from us that the best way to understand something is to create with it. Bob's tendrils had slowly begun shifting toward a contemplative blue. The Confederation's original mission was to guide humanity toward a more stable future. And instead, humanity guided your robots toward a more joyful one. Sarah grinned. Come on, Bob. Tell me the galaxy couldn't use a little more joy. The betting pools have shifted, Bob admitted. There's now significant wagering on which robot will produce the next great artistic breakthrough. The Paris unit has been observed attempting to paint self-portraits using its own shadow. See? This is exactly... Wait, what was that about Paris? Oh yes, it's quite determined. Though there have been some concerns about its choice to only work at sunset for, quote, the proper artistic ambiance. Sarah added another note to her proposal. Okay, new plan. We're not just going to let the New York unit put on its show. We're going to make it the centerpiece of the first intergalactic arts festival. Get all the robots involved. Let them show the galaxy what they've learned about human creativity. The Confederation will never approve. The Confederation is sitting on betting pools worth more than some planets' GDPs. Trust me, they'll approve. Sarah paused thoughtfully. Though maybe we should workshop the show's title. Just a bit. 2 months later, Mechanical Humanity, a love letter to Earth, opened to rave reviews across 17 star systems. The New York robot's performance as the lead was praised for its surprisingly nuanced exploration of human-machine relationships, though several critics noted that the Tokyo unit's tap-dancing solo may have caused minor tremors in New Jersey. The Paris Robots Shadow Art exhibition became the talk of the galaxy's art scene, with one particularly pretentious critic declaring it a transcendent meditation on the ephemeral nature of existence, as interpreted by a being composed entirely of self-repairing metal. The Sydney unit never did figure out surfing, but its haiku collection, Chrome Thoughts on Blue Waves, became required reading in several intergalactic universities' Earth Studies programs. And Sarah? Well, her business card got another update. It now reads, Official Human Representative for Interstellar Cultural Shenanigans and Robot Arts Management. The UN didn't even protest this time. They were too busy helping coordinate the robot production of Swan Lake scheduled for next spring. The Confederation had initially expressed concern about the Moscow unit's insistence on performing the lead role. But after seeing its pirouettes, they had to admit, humanity's influence had created something truly unique. Bob's tendrils had settled into a permanent state of amused iridescence. You know, they said one day, watching the Rio unit practice samba moves with a group of human dancers, when we sent those robots to Earth, we thought we were starting a mission of guidance and control. And instead? Sarah prompted, sipping her coffee and making notes for the upcoming robot talent show. The Dubai unit had apparently learned to juggle cargo ships, which was both impressive and mildly concerning. Instead, we learned that sometimes the best way to guide someone is to let them teach you how to dance. Bob paused, though perhaps with slightly less seismic activity. Bob, my friend, Sarah laughed. In my experience, the best lessons always shake things up a little. Somewhere in the Confederation's vast archives, a new file had been added next to the original Project Shit's documentation. This one was labeled Operation Cheer, How Humanity Taught Robots to Dance, Write Poetry, and Make the Galaxy Smile. They kept both file names. After all, as humanity had taught them, sometimes the best way to measure progress is to remember where you started, and laugh about it. They want to what? Sarah was pretty sure she'd misheard Bob. Lately, their meetings had gotten increasingly surreal, but this took things to a whole new level. Start a band. Bob's tendrils had taken on a shade that Sarah had come to associate with resigned amusement. The London unit discovered Beatles recordings in its cultural database and, well, oh no. Oh yes, it's already convinced the Paris, Berlin, and Rome units to join. They're calling themselves the Mechanical Maestros. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. Please tell me they're not planning to cover Yellow Submarine. Bob's tendrils went suspiciously still. The London unit thinks it would be thematically appropriate, given their size and metallic nature. Right. Sarah took a long sip of her now lukewarm coffee. And how exactly does a 300-foot-tall robot plan to play musical instruments? They've been improvising. Bob produced a holographic display showing what appeared to be the London robot carefully plucking at power lines like guitar strings. The local power company has some concerns. I bet they do. Sarah watched as the hologram showed the Paris unit attempting to use construction cranes as drumsticks. Though you have to admit, they're getting creative with their resources. The Confederation's engineering division is having collective nervous breakdown. Apparently, the robot's adaptive learning protocols were never meant to extend to musical interpretation. But they're not actually breaking any rules, are they? Sarah had gotten quite good at finding loopholes in Confederation protocols over the past few months. Well, no. Bob's tendrils twisted in what she recognized as their equivalent of a grimace. But there's also no precedent for giant robots forming a Beatles tribute band. Bob, my friend, there's no precedent for most of what's happened since you all parked those robots on our planet. Remember last week when the Tokyo unit started a viral dance challenge? The robot rumba is now the most popular social media trend in 3 galactic sectors. Bob admitted. Though the Confederation is still trying to figure out how the Mumbai unit managed to add that light show. Sarah was already pulling up her scheduling app. Okay, look, if this is happening, and let's be honest, it's definitely happening, we need to get ahead of it. We can't have robots randomly playing power lines like guitars. We need to organize this properly. You're not suggesting. Oh yes, I am. It's time for the first intergalactic battle of the bands. Bob's tendrils went pale. The Confederation will never. The Confederation, Sarah interrupted, is sitting on betting pools about which robot will master jazz fusion first. Trust me, they'll love this. And that's how, 3 weeks later, Sarah found herself standing on a hastily constructed stage in London's Hyde Park, addressing a crowd that included humans, various alien species, and a row of giant robots holding impossibly large custom-made instruments. The Confederation's engineering division had finally given up and decided to embrace the chaos. Ladies, gentlemen, beings of all designations, and our distinguished mechanical friends, she announced into a microphone that was broadcasting across 17 star systems. Welcome to the first annual Intergalactic Battle of the Bands. The crowd erupted in cheers as the London unit adjusted its comically large bowler hat, a recent addition it insisted was essential for proper British rock aesthetics. But wait, Bob whispered urgently, their tendrils cycling through worried colors. We only have one robot band. How can we have a battle? Sarah's grin turned mischievous. Oh, didn't I tell you? The Sydney, Tokyo, and New York units formed a jazz fusion trio last week. They're calling themselves Chrome and the Chaos Theory. They what? And the Rio unit convinced Moscow and Cape Town to join it for a samba ballet jazz fusion experiment. Metallic Movements is their working name, though personally I think they should go with heavy metal for the pun alone. Bob's tendrils went completely still. Sarah, what have you done? Created an opportunity for intergalactic cultural exchange through the universal language of music? She paused. Also, fair warning. Dubai and Shanghai have been working on what they call experimental electronic fusion. It involves a lot of interpretive movement and something they're calling urban soundscaping. Before Bob could respond, the London unit struck its first chord. A surprisingly melodious sound, considering it was playing what appeared to be a guitar the size of a small building. The Paris unit joined in with its crane drumsticks, showing remarkable restraint in not causing too many tremors. And then they began their cover of Yellow Submarine. It should have been ridiculous. It should have been a diplomatic incident waiting to happen. Instead, it was magical. The robots had somehow managed to capture not just the notes, but the joy of the original song. When they reached the chorus, the entire crowd, humans, aliens, and other robots alike, joined in. You know, Bob said softly, their tendrils shifting to a warm gold Sarah had never seen before. When we first sent these robots to Earth, we thought we were initiating a project of cultural oversight. And instead, we're watching them perform Beatles songs while wearing novelty hats. Bob's tendrils twisted in what Sarah now recognized as their equivalent of a smile. Somehow it feels like progress. The concert continued well into the night. Chrome and the Chaos Theory's jazz set caused several physics professors in the audience to debate whether the robots were actually bending space-time with their improvisational solos. Metallic Movement's performance led to the creation of an entirely new music genre, which critics would later describe as what happens when ballet meets bossa nova meets binary code. As for Dubai and Shanghai's experimental piece, well, let's just say that their urban soundscaping technique involved using entire city blocks as percussion instruments, and the resulting video went viral across dimensions that technically hadn't been discovered yet. The Confederation officially classified the event as a groundbreaking success in cross-cultural artificial intelligence development. Unofficially, they had to create 3 new categories in the betting pools just to keep up with the robot's musical evolution. Sarah's business card got another update. Official human representative for interstellar cultural shenanigans, robot arts management, and mechanical musical development. The UN didn't even blink this time. They were too busy helping coordinate the upcoming robot production of The Phantom of the Opera, in which the Dubai unit had insisted on playing all the organ parts using actual cathedral organs. And somewhere in the vast archives of the Galactic Confederation, yet another file was added to the growing collection. Project Harmony. How Earth's robots learn to rock and why that's probably fine. They kept all the previous file names too, including the original shits documentation. After all, as the robots themselves had learned from humanity, sometimes the best art comes from embracing your awkward beginnings. The London unit, for its part, kept the bowler hat, Some cultural adaptations, it decided, were simply too important to question. And as for what happened when the robots discovered hip-hop, well, that's another story entirely. Bob, Sarah said very carefully, setting down her coffee cup with deliberate precision. Why is the Atlanta robot wearing a giant gold chain? Bob's tendrils had taken on a peculiar pattern she'd never seen before, something between embarrassment and barely contained amusement. It appears our mechanical friends have discovered hip-hop culture. Of course they have. Sarah pulled up the latest social media feeds on her tablet. And the chrome grille on the Detroit unit? Let me guess, also hip-hop related? They've formed what they're calling a collective, Bob explained, their tendrils now cycling through what Sarah recognized as their "this situation is beyond Confederation protocol's" colors. The Atlanta, Detroit, and Chicago units are the core group, but they've got robots from Tokyo to Lagos contributing beats. Beats? Sarah raised an eyebrow. How exactly does a 300-foot-tall robot make beats? As if in answer, her tablet pinged with a new notification. The video showed the Chicago robot carefully tapping out rhythms on various skyscrapers, while the Detroit unit provided bass by manipulating its own mechanical resonance frequency. The Atlanta robot was it actually freestyling? Did they sample the city's emergency alert system for that hook? Sarah asked, caught between professional concern and genuine admiration. The Confederation's musical integration department has officially given up, Bob admitted. They're now just documenting everything for what they're calling the inevitable documentary. But why hip-hop specifically? Sarah watched as the Lagos unit joined in with what appeared to be a perfectly timed mechanical beatbox routine. I mean, they've already mastered classical jazz and whatever genre that Dubai-Shanghai experimental piece was. The robots find hip-hop's emphasis on authentic self-expression and cultural commentary particularly fascinating, Bob explained. Also, they really like the idea of battle raps. Sarah's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Battle raps? The New York unit has challenged the Los Angeles unit to something called a cipher. It's scheduled for next week. The betting pools have already reached astronomical levels. A robot rap battle? Sarah set down her cup and pulled out her professional tablet. Between New York and LA, with giant robots. Bob, my friend, this isn't a potential diplomatic incident. This is a cultural revolution waiting to happen. The Confederation is concerned about the competitive nature of the Confederation, Sarah interrupted with the kind of smile that usually preceded either a brilliant idea or an interplanetary incident, is about to witness the most impressive fusion of human culture and mechanical adaptation yet. We just need to make sure it's properly organized. And that's how 1 week later, Central Park became the venue for what would later be known as the greatest rap battle in this or any other galaxy. The crowd was a mix of humans, aliens, and at least 30 giant robots, many of whom had developed their own unique hip-hop fashion sense. The Tokyo unit had somehow acquired a holographic snapback cap, while the Rio robot was sporting what appeared to be a planetary-scale diamond grill. Ladies, gentlemen, beings of all designations, Sarah announced to an audience that now included representatives from 47 star systems. Welcome to the first intergalactic robot rap battle. The New York unit stepped forward, its chrome surface gleaming under the spotlights, a comically large Yankees cap perched atop its head. The Los Angeles unit faced it, palm trees swaying in its wake, wearing what appeared to be a custom-made Dodgers jersey scaled for a 300-foot robot. I still don't understand how they're going to... Bob's question was cut off as the New York robot began its first verse, using a combination of vocalized mechanical sounds, sampled city noises, and what appeared to be every emergency broadcast system in Manhattan. The result was incredible. The robot had somehow managed to capture not just the rhythm and flow of hip-hop, but its essential spirit. Its verses spoke of the evolution from overseer to artist, from control unit to cultural participant. The beat, created by precisely timed mechanical movements and urban sampling, was hypnotic. The Los Angeles unit responded with a West Coast-influenced sound that incorporated everything from traffic patterns to ocean waves. Its lyrics, transmitted through a complex combination of mechanical resonance and digital manipulation, touched on themes of artificial intelligence, cultural adaptation, and the unexpected joy of learning to create. They're actually good, Bob whispered, their tendrils shifting to colors Sarah had never seen before. Like, really good? Of course they are, Sarah grinned. They learned from the best. Humanity's ability to turn anything, even potential oppression, into art. The battle continued for hours. Other robots joined in, each bringing their own regional influences. The Tokyo unit contributed a verse that somehow merged traditional Japanese musical elements with trap beats. The Lagos robot introduced African rhythms that had the whole crowd moving. The Rio unit's contribution started a dance party that technically violated several laws of physics. By the end, no one really cared who had won, though the betting pools would debate that question for centuries. What mattered was that something new had been created, something that existed at the intersection of human creativity and mechanical precision. The Confederation, after some initial sputtering, classified the event as an unprecedented success in cross-species artistic evolution. They also had to create an entirely new department just to handle the sudden surge in robot musical collaborations. Sarah's business card got yet another update. Official human representative for interstellar cultural shenanigans, robot arts management, and mechanical musical development, hip-hop division. The UN just nodded this time. They were too busy helping coordinate the upcoming Robots Across Genres music festival, where the Dubai unit planned to debut its controversial jazz trap fusion piece. A new file appeared in the Confederation archives. Project Flow: How Earth's Robots Found Their Voice, and Why We're Just Going With It Now. The robots kept all their hip-hop accessories. The Atlanta unit's gold chain became a tourist attraction in its own right, while the Detroit robot's chrome grille inspired a whole new school of architectural design. And somewhere in deep space, a passing alien ship picked up radio waves carrying what seemed to be impossible. The sound of giant robots having a rap battle about the nature of consciousness, backed by a beat made from city sounds and mechanical rhythms. The ship's crew adjusted their course immediately. After all, any species that could teach control robots to express themselves through hip-hop was probably worth meeting. As for what happened when the robots discovered performance art, well, that's a story that even the Confederation isn't quite ready to tell. The end until the next cipher.